Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to study Surah 107, Al-Ma'un. Have you considered the one who rejects the deen, so the one who repels the yatim and does not urge the nourishment of the miskeen? So woe to the musallin, those they are heedless about their salat. They put on a show and hinder the assistance. This surah describes the essence of Din and Salat. The particle fa in fawailun connects the first three ayahs with the last four ayahs. This is an interwoven surah with correlated concepts. This surah has a common theme of rejection. In 107.1, kazzaba, belai, deny, reject. In 107.2, da'a, repel, reject. Huddu, urge, but with the negation particle la, it becomes don't urge, reject. Sah, sahun, omit, neglect, reject. And in the last ayah, mana'a, hinder, prevent, reject. The rejectors of deen, yatim, and miskeen are correlated with the musallin who reject the true essence of salat and hinder the al-ma'un. In 107.4, fawailun, the Quran uses wailun to indicate serious trouble for a group of people. Yatim means orphan, solitary, without support. Miskeen means needy, stationary, without the means to progress. In both cases, we have the definite particle al, which could mean a specific individual or a class. Ta'am is nourishment or sustenance. This could be spiritual as much as physical. A person with no access to guidance is solitary and stationary, without progress. In Surah 93, Allah groups these nourishing concepts together. Yatiman fa'awa, sheltering the orphan. A'ilan fa'aghna, enrichment of the needy. And dallan fahada, and guidance of the astray. So let's journey in the Quran to find correlations around themes from this surah. In this study, we will focus on surahs from Quran that present common concept clusters. This means that several ayat from 107 are repeated together. We will also go over ayat from 12 additional surahs that present root, word, and phrasal overlap. We will take some side notes on concepts that are closely integrated throughout our presentation. In Surah 74, the criminals are in a burning deep hole called Saqar. They are asked, "What led you to Saqar?" Their response, "We were not from the true Musallin, as we did not nourish the miskeen. We indulged in vain, baseless speech with others." This concept, khod, will be explained later. And we rejected the Yawm ad-Din. This is the second occurrence of the three Musallin in Quran. The Quran uses wailun for these rejectors as they are in Saqar. In Surah 52, we see فَوَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. So woe that day to the rejectors, those they indulge in vain speech frivolously. On that day, they will be repelled into Jahannam repulsively. The root da'a occurs only 3 times in the Quran, once in 107.2, yadu'ul yatim, and twice in 52.13. يُدَعُّونَ إِلَى نَارِ جَهَنَّمَ دَعًّا. This is the point of deep reflection. Of all the words Allah could use in 52.13, Allah chose that word, as if to say, the one who repels yatim is the one who is repelled into Nare Jahannam forcefully. Side note, khawd occurs 12 times in the Quran. Its literal meanings are wading and sloshing through water, plunging and rushing into, indulging in vain conversation. From the usage in Quran, it is correlated with mocking the ayat of Allah. Allah instructs us to not sit with them and turn away from them. For details, please watch another video on this channel titled They Turn Away from Nonsense. In Surah 69, the person facing the Jahim is lamenting and regretful that his wealth cannot avail him. He is being seized, shackled, and scorched in Jahim. His primary crime, he did not believe in Allah, as he did not urge the nourishment of miskeen. وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. As a punishment, his nourishment is ghisleen, scum. In Surah 89, Allah tells us about Al-Insan. Whenever his Rabb honors him, فَأَكْرَمَهُ, and blesses him, وَنَعَمَهُ, he says he is honored. But when his Rabb restricts his provisions, رِزْقَهُ, he says he is humiliated. Allah responds, Kalla balla tukrimun al-yatim. Not at all, but you do not honor the yatim. Wala tahadduna ala ta'am al-miskin. And do not urge the nourishment of miskin. As if to say, you humiliated yourself because when you were honored and blessed, you did not honor the yatim and miskin. In the following ayahs, Allah puts emphasis on the fact that whatever we are given has allotted portions for others in it. It cannot be consumed altogether. Notice the use of repeating roots in the ayahs for emphasis. وَتَأْكُلُونَ أَكْلًا لَمًّا. And you consume the heritage, consuming altogether. وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. And you love wealth with immense love. On that day, none will punish as he punishes. Side note: Karama and Ni'ma are broad concepts. They are not restricted to just wealth. In Surah 93, we receive instructions to not oppress the yatim or rebuke the questioner. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. And as for the ni'mah, blessing of your Rabb, narrate, recount, share. Side note: Yatim and Miskin occurs 23 times each in the Quran, and they are paired together about 10 times. Please note that Yatim and Miskin are before Salat in several ayat. In the beginning of Surah 4, Allah stresses the concept of social justice and uplifting the weak of the society. In the first 10 ayahs, the weak of the society are mentioned 9 times, with severe warnings about their possessions and rights. And Allah commands us to be kind and just in our dealings with them. It is very concerning that generally we see this whole context cut off, and focus is only placed on this partial phrase from the third ayah. Fankihu Masna wa Sulasa wa Ruba'a. In Surah 83, Allah tells us about the defrauders who change things and give short measure. They take in full, but they give less. They are labeled as Al Fujjar, the wicked, impulsive. The Fujjar are restricted as they are placed in Sijjeen, prison. They reject the Yawm al-Din. In contrast, Allah tells us about Al-Abrar, who are grounded in virtue, guidance, and scripture. They are placed in Illiyin, high. The Al-Fujjar and the contrasting Al-Abrar are also mentioned together in Surah 82. A side note on Al-Abrar. In Surah 76, Allah describes Al-Abrar. They nourish the miskin, yatim, and asir, captives. They say, we nourish you only for the sake of Allah. We do not desire from you any compensation or gratitude. Al-Abrar know what to do and they know how to do it. There is an important commandment of Allah in the Quran that all messengers and the rightly guided must follow. 26:109. I do not ask you for any compensation. My compensation is only from the Rabbul Alameen. This instruction is repeated 17 times in the Quran by several messengers. Al-Abrar additionally say, we dread from our Rabb a frowning, distressful day. Abusa. There are only 3 occurrences of Habasa in Quran. In Surah 74, Al-Insan frowns and whines when khair is given to him. In Surah 80, he frowns and turns away when khair is required of him. Al-Abrar know that in matters of khair, the result of Habasa is qutila and Abasa from their Rabb. For details on Al-Abrar, please watch another video on this channel titled Who are Al-Abrar? The phrase "hum an" occurs 4 times in the Quran. In 107:5, "Hum an salatihim sahun," those who are heedless about salat. In 10:7, Allah gives us a parallel example, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ آيَاتِنَا غَافِلُونَ, those who are oblivious about our ayat. In 21:42, "Hum an zikri rabbihim mu'ridun," they turn away from the zikr of their Rabb. So we must pay attention to the ayat and zikr in our salat. In 2014, Allah tells Musa, uphold the salat for my zikr. Salat and zikr occurs together in 12 ayat. In 38:1, Allah takes an oath by the Quran, the possessor of zikr. Quran and zikr occurs together in 11 ayat. Allah gives us a counter example of a people in 23:3. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ, those who turn away from nonsense, meaningless, false talk. It is beautiful that Surah 23 starts with Al-Mu'minun. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Those who in their salat are humble, submissive. On the other hand, the corrupt say in 41:26, do not listen to this Quran and make false speech in it. Lagh. The mu'minun turn away from love. They are khashi'un in their salat. Allah mentions those who are yuhafizun over their salat 3 times in the Quran. Guardians. Hafaza with preposition ala means to be heedful, carefully watching, upholding, abiding by, which is the opposite of sahun, heedless, inattentive. In 692, وَهَذَا كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مُبَارَكٌ وَهُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. This is a book that we revealed, blessed, and they are guardians, heedful over their salat. In 2:38, Allah commands, Hafizu ala salat. In 70:23, Allazina hum ala salatihim da'imun. Those who over their salat are persistent. 23:2, Allazina hum fi salatihim khashi'un. Those who in their salat are humble. A striking contrast. On one hand are those heedless, inattentive about salat, and on the other, being heedful, carefully watching, persistent, submissive, dry, barren, as their cup is empty. They are ready for divine rain. In Surah 51, the rejectors of Deen are mentioned. They are labeled as kharrasoon, those who guess, conjecture, opine without facts. Allazina hum fi ghamratin sahun. They are distracted and neglectful in the flooding or drowning of ignorance. This is the second of the 2 occurrences of sahun in Quran. Salatihim sahun, neglectful and heedless about salat. Ghamratin sahun, neglectful, heedless in the drowning of ignorance. As a result, kharrasoon, conjecturing. Side note, kharasa occurs 5 times in the Quran and it is correlated with zan, guessing, and the lack of ilm, knowledge. 6116. If you were to obey most of those on earth, they would divert, prevent you from Allah's path. They follow nothing but assumptions and they only conjecture. 43:20. But they have no knowledge of that and they only conjecture. In Surah 4, Allah commands us to be good to the orphans and needy. Allah doesn't love the arrogant show off. Fakhura 437. Allah wants azab for those who are stingy and command others to stinginess. Bukhl. وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. They conceal what Allah has given them from His fadl. 438. They spend from their mal to show off to people. Riya and Nas, the same root as Yura'un. In 4142, the hypocrites come to Salat lazily, showing off to people, Yura'un, and they do very little zikr of Allah. This is the second of the 2 occurrences of Yura'un in Quran. This concept is repeated in 954, approaching the Salat lazily and spending begrudgingly. Yura'un carries the meaning of making show for vanity. So, what exactly are they showing off? Can a person show off with speech, false claims of knowledge, and boasting? Yura'un comes from the root ra hamza ya, which carries the meaning of speculate, suppose, hold, and share opinions. Throughout this presentation, we made side notes on terms and concepts that appeared in related ayahs. For example, Allazina hum fi khawdin yal'abun, khawd, sloshing in water, rushing into, baseless speech. Lab, non-serious, frivolously. Kharasa, conjecturing, opining without knowledge. Laghv, high-sounding but meaningless false speech. Allazina hum fi ghamratin sa'un. Ghamra, drowning of ignorance. Wailan for these musalleen. They approach salat lazily, kusala. They are negligent about salat, sahun. They do not ponder over the ayat, ghafilun, and they show off, yura'un, false opinions without knowledge. The word mana occurs together with khair in several places in Quran. Khair is a broad concept that signifies blessings. In Surah 50 and 68, Allah tells us about Al-Insan, who is the preventer, withholder of khair. In Surah 70, When khair touches him, he is preventing, withholding, manu'a, وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ. This brings us to the last word in the surah, ma'un. This is a unique word in Quran, commonly translated as assistance, small utensils, and vessel. In Arabic lexicons, it is grouped under the root ma'ana, which carries the meaning of the flow of water or rain, the extraction of water, careful study and close examination, become absorbed in, and go far and beyond. Also, to get lead, as in a racehorse, which is interesting as Salat or Musalli is a horse closely following. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ, carefully watching over Salat. Two related roots in Quran are Ain and Aun. Ain carries the meaning of springs, fountains of water, Uyun, and pure drinks, Ma'in, and also eyes in 1137, and build the fulk under our eyes, meaning our carefully watching, examining eyes. It is also interesting that fulk is commonly translated as boat, and ma'un is also translated as a vessel. This brings us to Noon. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. It is only you we worship, and only you we seek help from. So, what is this help or assistance? Is it the divine rain, the khair, the ni'mah, blessings, the sirat or sabil towards it? In 245 and 2153, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ, and seek help through persistence and salat. 7023, الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ دَائِمُونَ, persistent over salat. وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ, but it is difficult except for the khashi'in. 23.3, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ, who are humble, submissive in salat, like a dry, barren land, seeking divine rain. But what about Sahun? وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ, they hinder, stop the flow of khair, the fountains of knowledge that are only achieved through careful and thorough examination and persistence in salat. They hinder it not only for themselves but also for others as they indulge in yura'un, baseless show, opinions without knowledge, as the corruptors say, 41:26. لا تسمعوا لهذا القرآن والغوا فيه. Do not listen to this Quran and make false speech in it. In Surah 70, Allah tells us about Al Insan. When shar touches him, he is restless. But when khair touches him, he is withholding, preventing. Then Allah gives us a counter example to Surah 107. Illal Musallin. This is the third occurrence of the three Musallin in Quran. Except the true Musallin, those who are persistent over their salat. In their possessions is a rightful and determined share for the questioner and the deprived. وَالَّذِينَ يُصَدِّقُونَ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ, they accept the truth of Yawm al-Din, a mirror to Surah 107. Then later in the Surah, so leave them to baseless and frivolous indulgences or conversation, khawd and la'ab. So I pose the question, what is the essence of Deen? How often does the miskeen need the nourishment? Once a year or daily? What is the essence of Salat? Where is the zikr, the ayat that we need to carefully examine to receive the divine rain so we can uphold and abide by it? Thank you for listening. Salamun alaikum.